Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Discuss. Today we are going to be talking about Visa, which I believe is the first financial stock I've talked about in the series. If I've talked about another one, I've forgotten what it was. But anyway, I'm excited to get into it. Got some thoughts about Visa. But first things first, if you are a new or returning viewer and you have not yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to stay up to date on all of my latest content, as well as check out my social media pages, which I have links to in the description. Also, don't forget to check out my M1 Journey video from last Monday, is episode 25, where I hit a major milestone of hitting $25,000 in my long-term portfolio. So check that out if you haven't already done so, as well as if you have a thought about what I should discuss next Thursday. I'll be talking about an investing concept or strategy. If you guys have something in particular you'd like to know more about, feel free to drop that down in the comments and I might just discuss that topic. And the last thing before we start talking about Visa is that, of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just 21 years old, so please do your own due diligence and research before making any investment decisions or consult an actual professional. So with that being said, let's discuss Visa. So just to talk a little bit about the background of Visa, they've been around for many decades. They were founded in 1958. They are, by market cap, one of the largest financial institutions in the entire world. They're currently valued at around $480 billion on the open market. So they are an industry leader in their space, which particularly falls in the electronic transfer of money and other currency, particularly through credit cards, debit cards, and prepaid cards. So chances are, if you do have a debit or credit card, if you look at it, you'll probably see the Visa logo. That means that they're just handling all of the transfer of money every time you make a purchase or transfer money to a friend or to a business. They're probably the ones overseeing that transaction. You may be aware that kind of that sector has been of a lot of discussion recently with the whole fintech revolution. They have a lot of competitors, most notably from MasterCard and Discover, which have been in that credit space for a long time as well. But recently, in the last several years, companies like PayPal and Square have started to make a little bit of inroads on Visa's market share. So that's kind of one thing to consider when looking at Visa, but as of now, they still remain on top. So moving on to talk a little bit about the Visa as a stock, they do currently trade for around $220 per share. They do offer a small dividend. If you are a dividend-oriented investor and you're pretty young, this is kind of something to keep an eye on. Their yield is very, very small at just 0.6%, and they only pay $1.28 per share per year, which is, again, very, very small. So if you're an older investor that's relying on dividend income to get by, this may not be the stock for you, but they do have a small payout ratio as well at only around 23%. And if you have been investing with Visa for many years now, you will have seen pretty big dividend increases year to year. They've been increasing it 12 consecutive years and have actually been increasing it at almost 20% clip annually, which is pretty impressive. And that low payout ratio suggests that that is very sustainable, and they will probably be increasing that 20% each year for the foreseeable future. So Visa's stock performance, if you're a long-term investor in them, have been really remarkable. Over just the last 6 months, they're up around 8% since the COVID crash of last year. They've done pretty well. Over last year, they're up about 30% from some of those lows that we saw at the height of the crash. Over the last 5 years, they're up about 185%. And then over the last 10 years, you've seen some really huge returns at over 1,050%, which is just quite remarkable. But if you've invested with them just in the last couple of months in 2021, year to date, they are just trading pretty flat, up less than 1%. So now would be an intriguing time to get in on Visa, which I'll talk about in my fair value estimate after I get into my pros and cons. So in this section of the video, this is where I kind of like to discuss pros and cons about every company in these videos. I usually like to bring up about 2 pros, 2 cons. So usually I start with the pros. The first one for Visa is that their fundamentals are very, very strong. For many years now, they've been still increasing their bottom line while also increasing their margins, which is a great sign to see, because that shows not only are they becoming more profitable, they're actually showing that they're also becoming more efficient with how they spend their money. Their leadership has been doing a great job at not over lending, especially in times of economic uncertainty like we've seen over the last several months, because for a credit institution to overlend is not a good thing, because a lot of people will default on loans and other credit, which obviously is not something you want to see, but they have done a good job of ensuring that they're safeguarded against that. And then the other pro for them is that low payout ratio that I discussed. So if you are a younger dividend investor such as myself, Visa does look pretty attractive due to that low payout ratio. They're increasing profitability, so that suggests that massive dividend increases are still on the way for many, many years to come. So with that in mind, if you are that dividend investor, I would highly encourage you to take a strong look at Visa. But of course, with any company, there are a few drawbacks. I would say the first thing that I have noticed about Visa is they're a little bit slow to catch on to the cryptocurrency trend. Not that I think that is a just deal breaker, but I would say they haven't laid out a clear plan about how they will incorporate cryptocurrency into their business in the future, which is a little bit behind the pace of some of their competitors like MasterCard and Square and PayPal. So I think that's one thing to keep an eye on, because invariably, however you feel about cryptocurrency, it is the wave of the future and it's here to stay for sure. So that's definitely one thing to look into if you're looking at Visa. And then the other thing is their market penetration into international markets has been, again, a little bit behind their competitors, especially with Square and PayPal. Obviously, electronic transfers are more prevalent than ever, with people not exchanging as much paper money, but just doing it over their phones, over their laptops, whatever electronic device they may have. Some markets, especially in China, have kind of brought in PayPal and Square more so than Visa, which is a little bit of a concern because China obviously is such a big market. But Visa does have a strong presence in Europe with their Visa Europe division. So they do have a strong foothold over there, but in the Asian markets, it is a little bit behind their competitors, with the Asian market being the growing market that it is. That is one thing to look at. So guys, I think even with those cons considered, I do look pretty favorably upon Visa's long-term outlook. So that is why I do feel pretty comfortable assigning them a buy at current market conditions, especially if they can lay out a clear and concise plan on how to implement cryptocurrency into their long-term plans. I think that will be a huge boost for them, and especially if they can, kind of be an industry leader on that as they have been in the past. I think with their strong fundamentals and combined with their strong leadership, it's just a great recipe for future success. So I did kind of throw around some numbers on what I thought their fair value would be. So I ultimately did settle on $240 per share. I contemplated doing $250, but I did analyze that their PE ratio could be seen as a little bit high. So that could be a bog on some people deciding to invest, especially when they're stacked up against some of their competition. Although in the financial sector, especially in their space, high PE ratios are not going to be, frowned upon too much, because that's not unusual. But that is something to, again, take in consideration when looking at Visa. But overall, I will have to say they are a buy with a fair value estimate of $240 per share. So that will wrap things up for this video. If you did enjoy, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, as well as comment your thoughts on Visa. If you're a current shareholder, go ahead and drop your thoughts on what your experience has been so far. And if you're not a Visa shareholder and you don't plan to be, let me know why. So look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and I will catch you guys on Monday.